Hello and welcome to Firearm Freedom. This is going to be another review video. We are taking a look at the Meprolight M21 reflex sight. As always, there are links down in the description where you can support everything that I do here on the channel. This is not a sponsored video, so the best way that you can support what I do here is checking out that very first link. It will bring you to the Firearm Freedom merchandise store. I just dropped 3 new shirt designs on there and 1 awesome new sticker. Those are all available, and I know you guys are going to love them. And if you want to make sure these videos are not being censored from you here on YouTube, the best way I know how to combat that is by commenting down below, hitting the subscribe button, ringing the bell, hitting that like button. All of those things should help make sure these videos continue to stay in your subscription feed. The Meprolight M21, man, I have had this reflex sight now for probably getting close to 5 years, and I have had a ton of requests to get this on camera on a review, and I never have. I've never done a first impressions video. I think I may have mentioned it a few times in different reviews on other guns that this was sitting on, and today we are finally going to be reviewing this sight. Now, this particular model is the model with the triangle reticle. There are, I believe, 5 different reticle options for this. They're all at an amber coloring, and I'm sure I'll be throwing up photos and video in the background of this reticle option, and it is a rather unique one, but we're going to get into my overall thoughts on this Meprolight M21. And I'll be honest with you guys, it may not be the most favorable review for this optic, but we'll get into that. So, out-of-box features, what are you getting with the M21? Well, this is going to be a reflex sight that's a little bit older in technology, but it is pretty cool. So this operates not off of batteries. It actually utilizes this shroud up here to give you fiber optic capability and tritium capability hidden underneath here. And it's also going to be taking some fiber optics from up in the front there. So what that means is this is an optic that does not use any batteries. This is just simply always on. The tritium is going to last you generally about 12 years, depending on how this was stored, and the fiber optics are going to be good indefinitely. So it's one of those things where this is really a no maintenance style of optic. Once you put it on the gun, once you sight it in, this thing is on all of the time. Aside from it not operating off of batteries, you do have out of box a quick detach mount here on the bottom. That is really nice. I like to see that. A lot of the Trijicon reflex sights would always come out of box with no mounting solution whatsoever, and you would have to buy this additionally. This is cool that Meprolight, actually sends this with a quick detach mount, and the quick detach mount is going to get it about lower 1/3, maybe an absolute co-witness. It is sitting a little bit higher on the gun, but it works just fine on every gun that I've put it on so far. Whether that be the Scorpion SBR that this is currently riding on, or any of the other ARs that I've put this on. And originally, this optic was designed by Meprolight for the IDF. So they requested a durable, non-battery operated reflex sight, and this is what Meprolight came up with. And durability, I have absolutely no complaints with. This thing is built like a tank. It has an all-metal housing here, and the QD is a super, super robust system. These are not really easy to bump or anything like that. And I have been throwing this thing around for 6 years. I've never experienced a shift in zero. I've never experienced cracking. It has a 30mm lens up here in the front, and that 30mm lens is actually kind of recessed back into the body of the optic a little bit, so I've never had any issues of this scratching. And then, of course, underneath here, you can see this really deep hood that is protecting the glass in the back section. So you have a lot of protection on this optic, and I don't know that you could really ever do anything aside from hitting something directly forward on that glass that's going to damage this optic. It's really, really well made, and I think that's a huge positive. The optic out of box is going to come with a kill flash as well, and I don't really use the kill flash anymore. It didn't really seem all that necessary to me. And the biggest issue that I see with using the kill flash is you guys can see here with that green tint up in the front, and then also how tinted that glass is. I know it's going to be hard to pick up on camera, but that glass is really, really blue, and that's what you typically see in these older designs and the reflex sights. So when you're using a kill flash, it makes it even harder to pick up that dot. So that's a little bit of a problem, which is why I never really use it. You can see the glass is tilted backwards a little bit. It's kind of at an angle. It's not completely flat up and down. And that's a technology that Trijicon uses as well, and that's also to help cut down glare, which I didn't really experience ever a ton of glare out of that front lens there, so I don't know that you would have a ton of issues. You have your adjustments here for windage on the right-hand side of the optic, and then you have your adjustment for elevation here at the top. These adjustments are great. They are really easy to get to with a flathead or a coin or whatever, and they're not really complicated. You're just able to really crank that one way or another, and no issues there. I also have not had these walk or anything like that. There are a lot of different reticle options that Meprolight offers. You guys heard me say in the beginning of this video, I believe they have 5 total options, and I went with the triangle option because, quite frankly, this was on sale at an old gun shop I used to work at, and that was the last one that they had. I really ended up liking the triangle reticle. You are able to get, you have this nice point at the top of the triangle here, and that allows you to get very accurate shots at a distance, and then on top of that you have a large triangle that allows you to get very quick and fast up close shots. So it's a reticle that it takes a little bit to get used to, but once you start shooting it, it's actually not bad at all. I don't mind the reticle at all, and I think if a lot more optic companies actually started going with that, you'd find a lot of people really like that reticle option. And I believe Meprolight does have some ranging estimations with the bottom of the triangle and a few of those other things. I unfortunately don't know where my box is for this. I thought I kept it, but I may not have, and it had a manual in there. I'm sure it went over that in the manual, but I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember off the top of my head. It does have some tension adjustment screws on the opposite side. Once again, really easy to get to. I'm not fumbling around with any sort of weird adjustment. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a little bolt here with a nut on the other end, and just tightening that a little bit is going to tighten the tension, and it's really easy to get to. So again, that's a huge positive there. No problems, no complaints. Now, the price point on these appears to have gone up over the years. They still make this optic, and I think I originally got this on sale for like $300. It was like $299, which attracted me to the optic. And now I was looking around on Amazon and other places, and these things are going for like $500+, which is just outrageous to me. I'm sure, just like everything else with the price increases that have been going on across the board in this industry, maybe material problems or whatever is causing them to increase the price on these, but I think $500 for this sight is just outrageous. I would never pay $500, nor would I recommend to pay $500 for this. If you were able to find it for like $399 or below, I do think that's a little bit more reasonable. What are my gripes with this optic? And quite frankly, it's not just with the M21, it's with any reflex sight that's tritium and fiber optic only. My main gripe is what's called a washout, and washout is horrendously bad on this M21. Now, there are a few little tricks to mitigate washout a little bit, and we'll talk about those in a second, but this is a combination of two things. So washout is when you have a tritium and fiber optic sight like this, it is operating off of the light conditions in its current environment. If you're standing outside on a bright sunny day and you are looking at a target that's also outside on a bright sunny day, you're probably not going to really notice this. The amber optic is going to be very bright because it's operating off of those fiber optics, and it's getting a lot of light from the sun. So that is not an issue at all. You might never notice a problem. However, the moment you stand underneath a shooting awning or something like that and you're looking out onto a sunny range, all of a sudden, poof, reticle gone. You can't see it at all, especially on a light-colored target. And the reason for that is because now the optic is trying to assume it is in a dark area. So it's going to slowly go down, and it's not gathering as much light from any of the other outside sources because it's now being shielded by the awning. This, in a defensive situation or a military or law enforcement situation, would be the same if you were inside of a window looking out into a sunny area. Once again, this is going to have complete and total washout. If you mix that with the very orange, light-colored amber dot that you have in there, once again, the washout is terrible because that amber dot really does a good job of blending in with a lot of light-colored objects. It's not like it's a green dot or a red dot, and red is going to really have a lot of contrast to the generally greens and browns that are downrange. The amber just blends in entirely, and especially in an environment where there's more dirt or sand, it's going to blend in like crazy. The other issue that I see with this washout problem, and why I really ended up not liking the M21, was not at the range, but was for home defense. So I put this on my home defense gun for a very long time. It was a 10.5 AR-15 pistol build. I've actually had it featured on the channel many times. If I can find that very, very old B-roll, I'll try to throw it up on the screen. And I started messing around with dry fire around the house, and I had, of course, a white light on my gun. Now, that is generally what you want to have on a home defense gun, and the biggest issue was all of a sudden in a very dark room, in a night environment, I would flash my white light and poof, the reticle was gone. And that's a big problem. If you have a white light on a gun with this on there, you will completely lose your dot in a night situation or a low light situation. Your dot will be completely gone. Now, of course, yes, this could be mitigated by a flip up front sight, but why at that point would you spend $500 on an optic that essentially does not work at night with a white light when you can identify the target and you're just using a flip-up iron sight instead? Now, again, this is not a fault of Meprolight. They made this style of optic incredibly durable, incredibly rugged, but this is just an older technology that, quite frankly, nowadays is just completely outdated. There are a few little tricks that are out there floating around online, and it's essentially like a small LED light bulb thing that goes on the side of these optics. It takes generally a 2032 battery, and it has a small disc on the side there that you can just use as a dial for brightness. And if you have that on there, you can kind of counteract the washout by having a small bulb that's going to be showing light onto the fiber optic. That is nice, but that is not something that has great battery life, and it's something that you constantly have to adjust. Now, they are out there for about 20 bucks, and if you wanted to use your Meprolight for a more realistic defensive purpose, I would almost say that is a must to have. The one positive about this M21, and Meprolight does state on their website that it is night vision compatible. I have used this Meprolight under night vision and looking at it through my Gen 3 White Phos PVS 14, and guys, I gotta say, this is probably one of the most crisp reticles that I have seen under night vision. It looks phenomenal through a night vision device. So that's actually why I started phasing it back into some of my builds like the Scorpion and other things that I may be running at night. For passive aiming, I think this would be huge. Now, of course, you do have some tinted glass there that is going to play a factor in night vision, but I did not feel that it was an issue at all. I think for a night vision optic, this thing knocks it out of the park. It almost would mirror, for me, in my opinion, in my eyes, how much I love my EOTech under night vision. And EOTech is probably one of the best night vision optics, hands down, on the market. So when it comes to this under night vision, it's a huge positive, and I really, really like this optic for that. I know this wasn't necessarily a glowing review for the M21, but you have to kind of separate like the uses versus the technology and how things have aged and all that good stuff. I think the price point is outrageous for this optic. However, it does most definitely have a cool factor, and it does look nice and cool and retro on a lot of different builds out there. So if you're going for this for the look, or you're trying to clone an IDF gun or something like that, it's going to be perfect. But if you're looking for real world use, I would probably urge you to go to a different optic choice. That's going to wrap this video up on the Meprolight M21. If you have any other questions about this optic or anything else on the channel, please throw them down below in the comment section, and you guys know I absolutely will get back to you. While you're down there, check out that description for all those links to support the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.